He said his movies were bad and said he was an actor's enemy. This well-known actor made Robert Duvall so angry that he turned down millions of dollars to stay away from him. Their nasty fight got so bad that John Wayne had to stop it. When asked if he would work with him again, Duvall said, "Never. I don't care if I never do." You won't believe who Duvall hates the most as a co-star. He was born in San Diego, California on January 5, 1931. His family had strong ties to both the military and the arts. His mother, Mildred, loved to sing and put on shows in the area all the time. Duvall had a family tree that linked her to Confederate General Robert E. Lee. He would get one of his biggest movie roles because of this relationship. His dad was William. The Navy made him a captain when he was only 39 years old. He was a well-known officer. When you grew up in a military family, rules and structure were very important. The Duvall family moved around a lot. They lived on military bases in Virginia, Maryland, Rhode Island, and other states. That's where Robert lived for most of his childhood. Robert didn't want to join the Navy, but his dad wanted him to. He said later that the only thing he was good at in school was acting. When he was young, he became interested in playing. He first played at Severn School in Maryland and then at the Principia in Missouri. Following high school, he went to Illinois' Principia College to study theater because he liked it. In 1953, he graduated with a degree in theater, but his life had other plans. He became a full-time player and joined the Army in the same year. The end of the Korean War made him join the Army. He was sent to Camp Gordon in Georgia to serve for a year. His time in the service was not the same as his dad's. One of the things he often made fun of about himself was that he wasn't very good at being tough. Still, he did something important at that time. He joined a play in the neighborhood. When he had that small part in the play Room Service, he thought about what he really wanted to do. In 1955, he did something very important. He got ready and moved to New York City to study acting seriously at the neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater. What they taught was the Sanford Meisner method, which was all about being real and honest on stage. He wasn't by himself. He had classmates like Dustin Hoffman, Gene Hackman, and James Caan. All of them were young, poor, and determined. Living in New York wasn't easy. To pay the rent, he did any job he could find. He drove trucks, worked in stores, and took care of mail. Though he didn't act in these jobs, they helped him understand regular people, which later helped him give his characters more depth. He, Hoffman, and Hackman all lived in the same small room. A fold-out couch was where they often switched off sleeping. They had a rough time together, but they kept going. After a long time, all three of them would become Hollywood stars and win or be nominated for dozens of Oscars. Duvall's first real chance came on stage. People paid attention to him after he played a man with issues in The Midnight Caller. Horton Foote, a writer, saw him in that role and later helped him get bigger jobs. He kept showing what he could do in tough plays like A View from the Bridge, which won him an Obie Award in 1965. But it was a quiet but important movie role that made everyone aware of him. In 1962, he played Boo Radley in To Kill a Mockingbird. The movie doesn't have any dialogue from Boo, but Duvall made the part stand out. He showed how strange and nice Boo was just by the way he looked and moved. He thought he was right for the part because he had seen him perform before. I agreed with Harper Lee. She wrote a letter that said, "Hey, Boo." Duvall stayed out of the sun for weeks to look weird and pale. To look like Boo from the book, he bleached his hair white. Little things like these helped him fit in with the part. Boo is not shown in the movie until the very end. This makes things tense. When Scout finally sees Boo and says, "Hey, Boo, it's sad and quiet," he is not the bad guy that some people thought he was. In fact, he is the one who protects Hunter and Scout. As the story goes on, he represents purity like the mockingbird that shouldn't be hurt. At first, Duvall had one line in the movie, but it was cut. In the end, he didn't need to say anything. His show was great even without them. The part that Robert Duvall played as Tom Hagen in the Godfather movies is still one of the most famous in movie history. Hagen did more for the Corleone family than just be their lawyer. He was someone they could trust and knew he could help them without hurting them. Duvall gave him a quiet strength in the part. He lived with them, but he never felt like he belonged. He always felt like an outsider because he was German and Irish, even though Vito Corleone took him in as a child. He wasn't like Sonny or Michael. He didn't want to be powerful or act on his feelings. He was steady, smart, and always thought ahead. Duvall did a great job in The Godfather, which came out in 1972. There was no doubt that Hagen was an important person. He had a say in all the big decisions and was often the one who calmed things down or dealt with bad situations. He did something famous when he was young and went to see Hollywood director Jack Waltz. John Fontaine agreed to be in a movie because Hagen asked him to. When that didn't work, they sent a message. Waltz woke up to find the head of his favorite horse in bed with him. Hagen made sure the threat got through, but it wasn't his idea. By the time The Godfather Part 2 came out in 1974, Hagen had changed. After someone tried to kill Michael, he left the country to find out who did it. While he was gone, he told Hagen to act as Don. It was clear that his family had faith in him. Things were fine at first, but Michael became mean and cold. He pushed Hagen away. He didn't tell him anything, which Vito would never do. Duke showed this change in quiet ways. Hagen was always true, but it was clear he wasn't sure. Even though he didn't always agree with Michael, he stood by the family. For Best Supporting Actor in 1972, Duvall was in the running. Making the list meant a lot, even though he didn't win. Michael Al Pacino and Vito Brando were both loud and angry, but Hagen was quiet and calm. He didn't need to talk about important things. He didn't need to scream. He was always calm and careful, and the way he spoke gave him power. He was one of the most interesting characters in the show because of this. A lot of people thought Duvall would be back when The Godfather Part 3 was talked about. But by 1990, things in the movie business had changed. Al Pacino was offered $8 million to play the part again. Duvall got a lot less. He said no when he saw the big difference in pay, even though he didn't want it. He said later that it didn't matter to him if Pacino had made twice as much money. He left, though, when the difference was 4 or 5 times what it was. Without Duvall, the writing had to be changed. Hagen wasn't added to the story. He was taken out. They said he died away from the show. A brand new family lawyer, B.J. Harrison, played by George Hamilton, was added, but it wasn't the same. It was clear to both fans and reviewers that something was missing. Frank Ford Coppola, who directed the movie, said that Duvall's leaving changed the whole plot. At first, the story was going to be about Michael and Hagen's friendship, and maybe even a battle for power. But that idea was thrown out when Hagen left. A lot of people believe it made the movie worse. Duvall never stopped working on the first 2 movies, but he didn't do the third one. Over the years, he told stories from the set. Most people have heard of the one about Marlon Brando. Brando put cue cards all over the set so he wouldn't have to remember lines. They were stuck to the walls or hid behind things. In one scene, Duvall had Brando's lines written on his chest. Brando thought that struggling to find the right words made him seem more real on stage. Some people thought it was lazy, but it was clear what it did. He became well known for his part as Don Vito Corleone. A lot of people say he didn't want to take the Oscar he won for it. Some of the best movie roles have been played by Robert Duvall. His parts always feel real, even when they're big. The part of Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore he played in Apocalypse Now. It was hard to describe Kilgore because he was both cute and scary. There was a movie by Francis Ford Coppola about the Vietnam War that was very strange and scary. Kilgore didn't need to be scared. He treated war like a game. His line, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," is one of the most famous in movie history. He didn't seem to notice the bad things going on around him because he thought that damage was a form of victory. Duvall didn't just make up that character. 40 little pains were all around him. His own father was a commander in the Navy and had served in the Army. Like real soldiers, he knew what to do. Telling his men to surf while bombs are going off is one of Kilgore's stranger moves. He doesn't seem to know anything about the war. The famous scene in the helicopter where Ride of the Valkyries by Wagner plays while bombs fall is another one. The scene is one of the most memorable ever caught on film. Duvall was only in a few scenes, but they were all important. He won a Golden Globe and helped make the movie Apocalypse Now well known. In the same year, he played a very different kind of fighter in The Great Santini. This time, his name was Lieutenant Colonel Wilbur Bull Meacham, soldier in the Marines. He was tough and proud in the air, but mean at home. He dealt with his family more like a squad than a group of friends. His son Ben was hurt the most. In a painful scene, Meacham and Ben play basketball. When Ben finally wins, Meacham doesn't like it. He gets mad instead of glad. Duvall didn't just make Meacham bad, though. Little things the character did showed he cared, even though he didn't know how to show love. Reviewers said that Meacham was likable on screen more than he was in the book. The movie showed men how to deal with their pride, and how having too much power can hurt people. At the end, Meacham tries to fix things with his family, but it's too late. Duvall was up for an Oscar for that part. He then played one of his nicest and most moving roles in Tender Mercies, which came out a few years later. He played Max Sledge, a country singer who was drunk and had lost almost everything. The movie showed his quiet journey as he tried to start over in a small Texas town. He changed when he met a widow and her son, and fell in love with them. By going all over Texas, Duvall learned how people talked and lived. He sang all of Mac's songs by himself. In a very sad part of the movie, Mac tries to get in touch with his daughter again. She dies in a car crash right as they were getting back together. It breaks my heart to see that chance gone forever. The movie was nice and smart. It looked at healing and hope in small, quiet ways. He said it was a big part of him. He kept his cool and let his looks and the way he moved say everything. The movie didn't do well at the theaters, but he won an Oscar for it. People liked it because it was honest and complicated. He gave the apostle everything he had after a long time. He saw it as more than just a job. It was his dream. He wrote the story, made the movie, and paid for most of it himself.
He believed the story was so good that no one wanted to make it into a movie. People are moved by Sonny Dewey, the Pentecostal speaker he played, but his pride and anger get in the way. A man is hit by Sonny when he is mad. After that, he gets baptized and moves to a small Louisiana town to try to start over. The movie was made in just 7 weeks. A lot of the guests were real churchgoers, which made the scenes seem real and not staged. He was nice but hard to understand. His sermon and long wait to win over a racist construction worker are two of the best parts of the movie. In the same way, this showed both his strengths and weaknesses. Duvall was never silly when he played the part. He told it like it was. It worked out well for him. He was up for another Oscar, and lots of critics said the movie was honest. Some people really liked how it showed faith and forgiveness, even though it wasn't a big hit. He said that teaching is one of the best arts in the U.S. at one point. In The Apostle, he brought that art to life. Like his long career, his personal life has had its ups and downs. He's been married 4 times, and each one has its own story. He was married to Barbara Benjamin first. She used to dance on the Jackie Gleason show. They met on the set of To Kill a Mockingbird in the early 90s. When Barbara married him in 1964, she already had 2 girls from a previous relationship. Sarah and Nancy were their names. At that time, it took Duvall a while to find his place in Hollywood. But movies like The Godfather made him famous very quickly. Not only did fame help them do well, it also put stress on them. In 1975, they were no longer married. He doesn't talk about those years very often, but they were good for him. Barb died in 2019 in New York City. She had been sick for a long time. Duvall got married again 7 years after his first divorce, this time in 1982 to actress Gail Youngs. Some of the famous people in her family are John Savage, Robin Young, and Jim Youngs. They both won an Oscar for their roles in the movie Tender Mercies. Even though their music made them look close, it wasn't enough to keep their marriage together. By 1986, they were no longer together. Before he met Gail, Duvall said he would never marry an actor. But after meeting her, he changed his mind. Though it might have been because they worked in the same field, they broke up. It couldn't have been easy. In 1991, he got married for the 3rd time. Sharon Brophy, his wife, was a dancer. Their friendship grew because they both liked dancing, especially tango. Sharon even taught him how to tango at one point. The couple had a special bond, but it wasn't enough to keep them together. For good, in 1996, they split up. Sharon didn't go public after the breakup like Duvall's other wives did. Something strange happened in the same year. A director and actor from Argentina named Luciana Pezza is someone Duvall met. She asked him to a party even though she didn't know who he was at first. Even though they were 41 years apart in age, they got along right away. Luciana was born in Argentina in 1972. She was the oldest of 5 sisters. She got her MBA before she became a movie star. They worked on more movies together over time, such as Wild Horses and Assassination Tango. They became friends because they both loved tango. They created the Robert Duvall Children's Fund to assist kids and families in need, mainly in Argentina. They worked and danced too. Duvall has been married 4 times, but he has never had children. He doesn't talk about it often. One time he joked that he was shooting blanks, but that was all he said. He has never shown sadness, whether he meant to or not. Duvall kept building a great business while these things happened in his personal life. He played one of his favorite roles in Lonesome Dove in 19... Former Texas Ranger Gus McCrae was played by Tom Lee Jones. He and his old partner went on one last cow drive. A lot of people enjoyed the movie, and it brought new life to the Western genre. Over 26 million people watched over 4 nights. Duke made Gus nice, funny, and real. He said it was his favorite part, even more than The Godfather. 7 Emmys were among the many awards Lonesome Dove won, but James Woods won the award for Best Actor, not Duvall. He did win a Golden Globe. When Gus died in the series, it broke my heart and made me cry. His words, "It ain't about dying, Woodrow. It's about living," stuck with people. People who wrote reviews said that Duvall gave the character a lot of depth. Gus was more than just a cowboy. He was a person too. There were 2 tough historical roles that Duvall played in the early 90s. In a 1992 HBO movie about the rise of the Soviet Union to power, he played Joseph Stalin. It seemed even more real because it was filmed in Russia just before the Soviet Union broke up. He put in a lot of work to get the part. Some smart people talked to him, and he watched old movies. It was like a street gangster being scared and in charge, he said. He won another Golden Globe for his work. He played Adolf Eichmann in the 1996 movie The Man Who Captured Eichmann. Eichmann was one of the people who planned the Holocaust. The story went on from the time Eichmann was caught in Argentina until he was put on trial in Israel. Duvall played him not as a monster, but as a man who didn't care about doing bad things. More Emmys were given to him for a performance that was both dark and strong. As Duvall got older, he kept playing important roles. He played Jerome Phaser in the 1998 movie A Civil Action. Phaser was a very smart and clever lawyer who defended businesses that were said to have polluted a town's water. He played a man doing his job, not a bad guy. There was talk about him getting an Oscar for the role. He played Felix Bush, a man who lived alone in the 1930s, in the movie Get Low, which came out in 2009. Who wants to be sad about their own death when they're still alive? It was a movie about feeling bad about yourself, hiding things and making things right. Many reviewers thought it was one of his best shows. Robert Duvall has never been shy. People know him for being honest and doing strong things. Besides that, he doesn't hold back when he talks about other movie artists. Over the years, he's made it clear that he has high standards and won't accept anything less. One of the people he talked badly about the most was director Stanley Kubrick. Duvall wasn't shy when he talked in a chat room. He said Kubrick didn't like actors and had good things to say about the acting in some of Kubrick's most famous movies. A lot of people really liked movies like The Shining and A Clockwork Orange, but Duvall thought the acting was terrible in those films. But he didn't blame the actors, he blamed Kubrick's work. There were a lot of takes, so Duvall didn't get how the director could choose which ones were better. In his mind, acting badly was caused by being so precise. Duvall wasn't nice to old directors only. He was also rude to new ones. At the same meeting, someone brought up David Fincher, and Duvall said he had no idea who he was. He didn't talk about turning down a part in Seven until he knew who they were. He didn't say why he turned down the part, but he thought Fincher's style might have turned him off, even if it was only in his gut. He also talked about how hard it was to work with Henry Hathaway on True Grit. Duvall made it clear that they did not get along. He only said that Hathaway's strict way of leading people is different from how he used to act. At one point, things got so tense that John Wayne told Duvall to back off or get hit. It was clear that the set wasn't very quiet. During his career, Duvall was known for being tough, but there was a good reason for that. He said that George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, and Ulu Grosbard were some of the best directors. He said they didn't have any problems with him. He only got in trouble with directors he didn't like. If he didn't think they were good enough, he didn't try to hide how mad he was. Even when he worked with directors he liked, things got tough. He looked up to Coppola, but he turned down The Godfather Part 3 because they didn't agree on the pay. He said once twice as much pay was fine, but not 3 or 4 times as much. He also made fun of the time Coppola came to his house to talk about the movie, but was more interested in a crab cake recipe that Duvall's mother made than in whether Duvall would come back to work on the movie. Steven Spielberg was a great start. He said that the beginning of Saving Private Ryan was one of the most real movie scenes he had ever seen. Politics made their friendship worse in the end, though. When Spielberg met Fidel Castro in Cuba, Duvall got very mad. He said that Castro was a killer and Spielberg wasn't being fair in talks. He also said that he would never work with Spielberg's company DreamWorks again and that it didn't bother him if he never did. As long as he's been in the movie business, he's always thought that you should only do great work. No matter what, he never lied or tried to be someone else. The shocking things Robert Duvall said have finally shattered the perfect image of one of Hollywood's biggest stars, who has worked in the business for 60 years. We now know the shocking truth. He was a man who wouldn't give up, even if it cost him millions of dollars. He turned down The Godfather Part 3 because he didn't have enough money, and he got into fights with Stanley Kubrick and Henry Hathaway. Duvall never cared that other people in the business didn't like how honest he was. He told me many years ago, the best directors never had a problem with me. The rest simply weren't good enough. Because he was always honest. He was fired from some of Hollywood's biggest brands and some A-listers wouldn't work with him again. Robert Duvall's heated arguments show a rare quality in Hollywood, a star who put his beliefs ahead of money, even if it meant making strong friends along the way. He was still a question. Was he hard to work with or did he just expect the best?